My name is Sarah Thompson, and I'm 18 years old. I live in a small town in Ohio, a place where everyone knows your name, your family, and sometimes even your secrets before you've told them. Growing up here, I thought my world was simple, slow, predictable, but the moment I got my first smartphone, everything changed. Social media became my window, and in many ways, my mirror to a world far bigger than our town's dusty streets and familiar faces. I remember the excitement I felt scrolling through apps like Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat, watching people from all over share pieces of their lives. It was like having a global conversation at my fingertips. I could connect with friends instantly, see what they were thinking, feeling, or doing, and even share my own moments, sometimes carefully crafted, sometimes raw. Social media wasn't just entertainment, it was the pulse of my everyday life, shaping how I saw myself and others. At school, it was impossible to escape. Even in the hallways between classes, phones slipped out to check notifications or snap a quick selfie to post. Friendships were forged and fractured in group chats. I could feel the pressure to keep up, to be liked, to say the right things or appear perfect. It often felt like a performance, and sometimes I wondered if I was just pretending to be someone everyone wanted to follow. But it wasn't just me. I saw it all around friends who'd obsessively refresh their feeds, comparing their lives to highlight reels of others, sometimes feeling invisible even in a crowd. Teachers and parents talked about how social media was changing us, but their warnings often felt distant, like they didn't fully understand. They worried about mental health, identity confusion, and how constant exposure to filtered realities could warp our sense of self and values. I'd heard phrases like digital addiction and echo chambers thrown around in conversations and news stories. Adults worried about how social media might be amplifying division, how people seemed to retreat into corners where their beliefs were never challenged, deepening divides between friends, families, and even communities. I'd seen some of it firsthand, arguments breaking out over posts, rumors spreading faster than truth, and the way people sometimes hid behind screens to say things they'd never say face to face. Still, for me and most of my friends, social media felt like a lifeline. It was how we stayed close, especially when life felt overwhelming or lonely. I had friends who lived miles away, yet their snaps and stories made it feel like they were right beside me. At the same time, there was this gnawing feeling I couldn't quite shake that beneath the connection, many of us were drifting further apart. We were linked by technology, but isolated in our own bubbles. I remember thinking, is this really who I am or who I want to be? The lines between online and offline blurred. Sometimes I'd catch myself scrolling mindlessly in the middle of class or lying awake late at night, my mind racing with notifications and reactions. It was exhausting but hard to stop. Social media had become more than a tool, it was a force shaping identity, values, and relationships in ways I didn't fully understand. Despite all this, I never imagined that my relationship with social media would lead me to a moment that would forever change how I see the world. The night it happened, I was just like any other, checking my phone, replying to messages, sharing a story. There was no warning, no sign it was about to become so much more than a habit. But that night would shatter the surface of my digital life and plunge me into something far deeper, far more real. Before everything changed, I was typical of my generation, connected, curious, and caught between the excitement of technology and the growing concerns whispered by adults in news reports. I'd heard about how social media could affect mental health, how anxiety and depression seemed to be rising among teens, and I saw the truth in it with some of my friends. But it was easy to dismiss it as just part of growing up or the price we pay for staying connected. That small town where I live holds on to traditions, values passed down through generations, but social media was introducing new ideas and challenges faster than anyone could keep up with. It was reshaping how we talked about ourselves and others, sometimes bringing light and inspiration, other times breeding judgment and misunderstanding. The adults around me often talked about the good old days, when people actually met face to face, but I couldn't imagine living without my phone or my online world. I remember one afternoon sitting with my mom in the kitchen, her face lined with worry as she watched me scroll through endless photos and videos. "Sarah," she said softly, "I'm scared about what all this is doing to you. It's like you're living two lives, the one online and the one here. And sometimes they don't match." I nodded but couldn't fully explain how complicated it felt. It was more than just two lives, it was a constant push and pull between wanting to belong and wanting to be real. My friends and I often talked about it too, how social media could be a blessing and a curse. We used it to share our hopes, dreams, and struggles, but we also hid behind filters and captions, afraid to show the parts that didn't fit the picture perfect narrative. We wanted to be accepted, but we were also hungry for authenticity. It was confusing and sometimes painful. In school, conversations about social media's impact were starting to take center stage. Teachers tried to educate us about online safety and mental health, but it felt like the real struggle was deeper: how to find balance and truth in a world flooded with noise. I remember one assembly where a counselor talked about the dangers of comparison culture and the importance of self worth beyond likes and shares. The words stuck with me, but the temptation to measure myself against others online was strong. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that social media wasn't just changing individuals, it was changing communities and even the nation. I saw how it was shaping opinions, sometimes dividing people over politics, beliefs, and values. It seemed like everywhere I looked, people were arguing over posts, memes, and news stories that often twisted facts or played on emotions. The digital world felt like a battlefield, one where understanding and empathy were often lost in the noise. I began to see that social media was a double edged sword. It could connect or divide, heal or hurt, reveal truth or spread falsehood. It was powerful, but also fragile. And as a teenager growing up in this era, I felt caught in the middle, trying to navigate the highs and lows, wanting to make sense of it all while still figuring out who I was. All of this set the stage for the moment that would change everything, the moment when the digital world I knew would be stripped away, revealing something more profound. I didn't know it then, but I was about to face a reality that transcended screens and status updates, a reality that would challenge everything I thought I understood about connection, identity, and truth. Looking back now, I see how deeply social media had woven itself into my life, how it shaped my thoughts, my feelings, and my relationships. It was a world full of light and shadow, hope and hurt, connection and loneliness. And in that small town in Ohio, surrounded by familiar faces and digital screens, I was about to step into a journey that would open my eyes to a greater truth beyond what any app or post could show. That night began like any other, but it quickly spiraled into a moment I will never forget. I was driving home from a friend's house, my phone resting on the passenger seat, buzzing with messages and notifications. I remember glancing down to reply to a text, just a quick message to say I was on my way, and in that instant, everything changed. The sound of screeching tires and shattering glass filled the air as my car collided with the vehicle in front of me. Time seemed to slow, yet rushed all at once. I felt the impact like a thunderclap in my chest, my body jolting violently as the world around me spun out of control. The last thing I remember before losing consciousness was the glow of my phone's screen, casting a pale light across the crumpled dashboard. Then, everything went silent. I felt myself lifting as if I were weightless, drifting upwards above the wreckage. I could see my body slumped in the driver's seat, glass scattered like tiny stars across the floor. The distant sounds of sirens and frantic voices reached me, but they felt muffled, far away like echoes from another world. There was an overwhelming calmness in that moment, a stillness that contrasted sharply with the chaos below. As I floated higher, a radiant light appeared ahead of me, soft and inviting. It wasn't harsh or blinding, it was warm, like the gentle glow of a sunrise filtering through a window. I felt drawn toward it, as if pulled by a force beyond my understanding. Fear and confusion gave way to a strange sense of peace. And then I saw him. Jesus stood there, his presence exuding a compassion and understanding that words cannot capture. His eyes held a kindness that seemed to reach deep into my soul, seeing every part of me: the good, the broken, the hidden fears. He didn't speak at first, but his gaze alone was enough to make me feel safe, known, and loved beyond measure. I wanted so much to reach out, to ask the questions swirling in my mind, but the answer came before I even spoke. Without words, he communicated a message of grace: that I was not alone, that my struggles mattered, and that there was a purpose beyond the pain I had just experienced. In that place, time lost all meaning. I wasn't bound by the worries of social media, the pressure to appear perfect, or the endless scroll of distractions. Instead, I was fully present, completely free from the noise that had consumed my life for so long. It was as if all the layers I had worn to protect myself were peeled away, revealing the core of who I truly was. Jesus reached out his hand, inviting me to walk with him through a realm unlike anything I had ever imagined. The world around us shimmered with colors more vivid than any sunset I'd ever seen. Fields of light stretched as far as the eye could see, and a gentle breeze carried a melody that felt like hope itself. As we walked, I sensed a deep understanding in his presence, an awareness of the struggles I faced in my daily life, the loneliness hidden behind countless online connections, and the yearning for something real in a world that often felt superficial. I realized then that this encounter was not just about me. It was about the millions caught in the web of digital distraction, the hearts lost in the endless chase for validation, and the souls longing for true connection. Jesus showed me a glimpse of the battle beneath the surface, a struggle between what is fleeting and what is eternal. In that moment, I felt a profound awakening. The social media world I had known, the likes, the shares, the endless comparisons seemed distant and insignificant. What mattered now was the truth of love, presence, and genuine connection. I understood that the screens that once controlled me could never replace the depth of relationship found in his light. Yet, even in this peace, I sensed a call of purpose waiting for me when I returned. Jesus' eyes held a quiet urgency, a reminder that the life I had been given was not just for me to live, but to share. There was a message I needed to carry back to the world I had left behind. As I lingered in that luminous place, I wanted to stay to dwell forever in the calm and clarity, but I felt a gentle nudge, a reminder that my journey was not complete. The light that had drawn me there now began to fade, and I felt myself descending, returning to my body with a rush. I woke up in a hospital room, the sterile scent of antiseptic filling my lungs. The beeping of monitors and the soft murmur of nurses surrounded me. My mother's face appeared above me, tears streaming down her cheeks, a mixture of relief and disbelief etched into every line. Doctors hovered nearby, astonished by my survival and the rapid progress I was making. In those first moments of awareness, I struggled to piece together what had happened. The accident, the strange sensation of floating, the light, and most of all, the presence of Jesus. It all felt like a dream, yet the weight of it pressed on my heart with undeniable reality. As I lay there, grappling with the physical pain and emotional shock, I realized that what I had experienced went far beyond a near-death event. It was a spiritual awakening, a glimpse into a reality that transcended the digital noise and distractions of my everyday life. It was a call to see the world, and myself, through new eyes. I couldn't yet explain it fully, and I wasn't sure if anyone would believe me if I tried, but inside me something had shifted. The urgency to understand, to share, and to live differently had taken root. I knew that the social media-driven life I had known was no longer enough. There was a deeper truth waiting, a truth I had glimpsed in the calm presence of Jesus. In the days that followed, I wrestled with the memory of that night. The crash replayed in my mind, but so did the peace and light that had carried me through. I felt a tension between the world I was returning to and the reality I had touched. How could I reconcile the two? How could I live with the knowledge of what lies beyond the screen? Though I was physically healing, my heart was restless. The encounter had opened my eyes to the emptiness behind many online interactions and the loneliness hidden beneath the surface of constant connectivity. I began to see social media not just as a tool, but as a force that could either build up or tear down, depending on how it was used. I sensed that my near-death experience was not just a personal event, but a message for my generation, a generation caught between the allure of digital connection and the hunger for authentic relationships. It was a call to pause, to reflect, and to seek what truly lasts beyond the fleeting likes and shares. As I lay in that hospital bed, surrounded by machines and the quiet hum of healing, I felt the stirrings of a new purpose. The light I had seen was not just a memory to cherish, but a guiding force, calling me to live differently and to help others find the way out of the shadows cast by screens and distractions. This was only the beginning. As I drifted deeper into that radiant light, Jesus began to reveal to me the hidden truths behind the world I was leaving behind, the social media sphere that had so deeply shaped my life and the lives of millions. It was as if he peeled back a veil, showing me not just the surface, but the currents swirling beneath the endless feeds and flashing screens. He showed me how social media, though designed to connect us, often did the opposite. Instead of bringing us closer, it divided. I saw images of people scrolling endlessly, their faces lit by the cold glow of their phones, yet their eyes reflecting loneliness. They reached out for approval, likes, comments, validation from strangers, but underneath, they felt isolated, more alone than ever. Jesus revealed how the platforms built to unite had become battlegrounds for misunderstanding and conflict. People hid behind screens, saying things they wouldn't dare to say face to face, fueling anger, suspicion, and division. I saw arguments erupt over politics, beliefs, even personal choices, amplified by algorithms that only showed us what confirmed our biases, trapping us in echo chambers. It wasn't just online, it spilled into families, schools, communities, fracturing relationships that once seemed unbreakable. I understood then that social media had distorted truth in subtle, dangerous ways. Facts became twisted, opinions hardened into dogma, and empathy was often lost in the noise. People were more connected than ever, yet they seem to listen less, judge more, and love less. The digital world fed on outrage and fear, keeping us distracted from what truly matters. But amidst this darkness, Jesus showed me hope. He revealed two futures for my nation, two paths unfolding before us. On one path, technology and faith could coexist harmoniously. In this future, people use social media to build bridges rather than walls, to share stories that uplifted and healed rather than divide and destroy. Communities would come together around empathy and understanding, using these tools to foster real connection and compassion. I saw young people like me who chose to look beyond the screen, seeking genuine relationships, supporting one another in truth and love. They used social media mindfully, setting boundaries, speaking words that encouraged rather than condemned, and turning away from the trap of comparison and judgment. In this future, the digital world became a place of light, where technology amplified the best of humanity instead of the worst. Yet, the other path was darker. I saw a nation addicted to screens, consumed by superficiality and isolation. Social media became a tool for division, deepening loneliness and moral decay. People lost themselves in virtual validation, chasing likes while neglecting real connection. Truth became relative, replaced by what was popular or provocative. The noise grew louder, drowning out the voice of conscience and love. In this bleak future, relationships fractured, communities splintered, and the soul of the nation grew weary and broken. People were trapped in cycles of anxiety and despair, unable to find peace because their hearts were tethered to fleeting digital approval rather than eternal truth. It was a world of shadows, where the light of love and connection struggled to break through. Jesus' message was clear. The choice was ours. We could either be enslaved by the superficial, or we could embrace a deeper reality rooted in love, humility, and truth. He urged discernment, a call to listen carefully, to seek his voice above the noise. The battle wasn't just out there in the digital realm, it was within our own hearts. Would we surrender to anger and division, or would we pursue reconciliation and peace? He showed me the importance of genuine human connection, of seeing each person as a beloved child, worthy of respect and compassion, not just a profile or a set of opinions to be judged. He reminded me that true community is built on listening, understanding, and grace, not on winning arguments or gaining followers. In that vision, Jesus also revealed how many who spoke boldly online, claiming to represent truth, often did so without first seeking his guidance. I saw platforms filled with passionate voices, but the atmosphere was heavy with pride and anger. The angels that surrounded the crowds watched silently, sorrowful over the division and pain being sown. He warned me that a revival born from human anger and division would not endure. True revival, he said, must begin with humility and repentance and opening of hearts to God's love and mercy. Only then could a fire of healing and unity ignite across the nation. I saw two futures again, one where believers humbled themselves, prayed fervently, and sought God's heart, leading to a holy fire of renewal that transformed lives and communities. The other showed a church consumed by factionalism and bitterness, where division and anger destroyed the witness of love. I begged Jesus to let me remain in that peaceful place longer, to hold on to the clarity and love I was experiencing. But he gently reminded me that my journey was just beginning. He was sending me back not simply to survive, but to be a messenger, a peacemaker, a voice calling others to choose the path of humility, love, and truth. As the vision faded, I felt a profound responsibility settle in my heart. The social media world I had been immersed in was not the enemy, but it was a tool that could be used for good or ill. It was up to each person to choose how they engaged with discernment, compassion, and a heart tuned to God's voice. Jesus' words echoed in my mind. Let love be your guide. Seek me first, and the rest will follow. Be a light in the darkness, a bridge where walls have been built. I knew that this message was urgent not just for me, but for everyone caught in the digital storm. The vision left me with a burning desire to help others see what I had seen, to encourage people to pause before reacting, to listen before judging, and to seek connection over conflict. I understood that the greatest battle was not between political parties or online tribes, but within our own hearts, the battle between loving power and loving God. In that moment of clarity, I realized that social media could be redeemed not by rejecting it, but by transforming how we used it. It could become a platform for healing, truth, and unity if we chose humility and love over pride and division. As the light around me dimmed, I felt a deep peace settle over my soul. I was ready to return, to carry the message forward, even though I knew it would not be easy. The world I was coming back to was still filled with noise and confusion, but I had been given a glimpse of a way marked by grace, courage, and hope. The choice now was ours. I woke to the sterile white walls of a hospital room, the steady beep of a heart monitor syncing with the rapid thump of my own heart. My body felt heavy and fragile, each breath a reminder of how close I had come to slipping away. Around me, doctors and nurses moved with urgent care, their faces a mix of relief and disbelief. But the moment that cut deepest was seeing my mother's face, her eyes wet with tears, a mixture of joy and exhaustion etched into every line. In the hours and days that followed, the weight of what I had experienced pressed down on me. The doctors called my survival a miracle, but I knew deep down it was more than that. I carried something inside me that felt sacred, a message, a calling that I struggled to put into words. How could I explain the calm light, the presence of Jesus, the vision of a fractured world, and two possible futures? At first, I kept the experience to myself, afraid others would dismiss it as a dream or something born of trauma, but the truth gnawed at me relentlessly. I couldn't shake the images of a nation divided by screens, the loneliness behind thousands of glowing phones, or the call to choose love and humility over anger and pride. The social media world I had known suddenly felt like a fragile house built on sand, and I was desperate to warn others before the storm came crashing down. I began to reflect deeply on my own life and the lives of those around me. How many hours were spent scrolling through feeds, chasing fleeting approval, or getting caught in heated online arguments? How many friendships had quietly frayed because words typed in haste couldn't be taken back? How often had I, myself, measured my worth by likes and comments instead of by the love I was truly given? The experience opened my eyes to the urgency of fostering authentic relationships, those built on real conversation, empathy, and presence. I realized that technology itself wasn't evil, it was how we used it that mattered. But the culture of comparison, the echo chambers, and the relentless pursuit of validation were breaking hearts, including mine. I felt compelled to share what I had seen and learned, not in a way that would alienate or accuse, but with a heart full of compassion and hope. I wanted to inspire others, my classmates, my community, even strangers online, to pause and reconsider the role social media played in their lives. To seek balance, to embrace humility, and to choose love even when it was difficult. In conversations with friends, I found that many of them were struggling too, caught between the desire for connection and the exhaustion of constant noise. Some confessed to feeling invisible despite hundreds of followers, others admitted to feeling anxious or depressed after endless scrolling. We talked about the need to reclaim our time, to find moments of stillness, and to listen to God, to one another, and to our own hearts. I also reached out to my school counselors and teachers, sharing my story and urging for more open discussions about the impact of social media, not just the dangers, but the deeper spiritual and emotional consequences. I wanted to help create spaces where students could be honest about their struggles and find support beyond the screen. This journey wasn't easy. There were days when doubt crept in, when the pressure to conform to online expectations pulled me back into old habits. But the memory of that light, of Jesus' compassion and the vision of hope, kept me anchored. I learned to set boundaries with technology, to seek moments of quiet, and to cultivate relationships that nourished my soul instead of draining it. The message I carried was simple yet profound. Social media is a tool, not a master. We are called to be mindful, to choose empathy over judgment, and to create community grounded in truth and love. The greatest battle isn't fought on screens or in comment sections, it's within our own hearts, where we decide whether to live in fear and division or in hope and unity. As I continue to heal, both physically and spiritually, I am more aware than ever that this is only the beginning. The world around me is still filled with noise and confusion, but I believe that change is possible if we are willing to listen, to repent, and to love. My near death experience showed me that heaven is real, that Jesus is alive, and that his heart breaks for a generation lost in the chaos of digital life. Now, I urge anyone reading this to pause before reacting, to seek stillness amid the noise, to listen for God's voice above the clamor of opinions and outrage. We have the power to choose how we engage with technology and with each other. We can be architects of healing or agents of division. I don't have all the answers, and I don't expect the journey to be easy, but I carry a hope that is stronger than fear, a hope born from a glimpse of divine love that transcends screens, likes, and shares. I want to live a life that reflects that love, and to help others find the courage to do the same. America's greatest battle isn't in the headlines or on social media feeds. It's within us, in our hearts, in the way we treat each other, and in the choices we make every day. The future depends not on algorithms or trends, but on the humble willingness to love, to forgive, and to seek truth beyond the surface. I am still learning what it means to live this out, but I am committed to being a peacemaker in my generation, to be a voice that calls for unity, compassion, and authenticity in a world desperate for all three. My story is a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is light. Even when we feel lost, there is a way home. So, if you find yourself caught in the endless scroll, overwhelmed by the noise, or divided by the anger you see online, I encourage you to pause, look beyond the screen. Seek the voice of love and truth. Remember that you are not alone and that there is a hope that can heal even the deepest wounds. This is not just my story, it is a call to all of us to wake up, to repent, and to choose a better way. The journey is long, but the destination is worth every step. Together, we can build a future where technology serves humanity, where hearts are healed, and where love leads the way.